welcome you to this panel that we will be sharing this afternoon with amazing guests to share their experiences. I'm going to share a presentation. Just a second. There we are. Okay, this is the panel on service learning in schools and social organizations during the pandemic. This panel is part of the 24th International Conference on Service Learning that is organized by CLICE with the support and collaboration of the Ibero-American Network of Service Learning, the Uniservitate program, and OEI. Thank you so much for those that have participated in the different training and exchange sessions we've had these days. If you still have not participated, we invite you to visit the materials that are available at the webpage, in our networks, in our media. They are in Spanish, Portuguese, and English. And it's truly a pleasure for me. I'd like to say hello again to all my colleagues in this partner and the speakers, and those that have supported in the organization of the event, Catalina Torquepas, Magdalena Fernandez Villa, and also Lucia Martinez Ibar. The three of us, or the four of us actually, will be sharing this moment of reflection and to know these experiences that will be shared as to how they carried out educational projects, service projects during the pandemic. In the first part of the session, we are going to have the camera on and the mic on only when we are speaking. And then we will have a Q&A. And there, those in the Zoom may be able to write your questions in the Zoom for the speakers. And those that are watching from YouTube, you can also write in the YouTube chat. You can write your questions so that we read them to Ana Paula, Florencia, Gerardo, Elizabeth, Tielsa, Marigona, and Charo. And finally, this panel will be finishing at 3:50 Argentina time, that is 10 to 4, because after this panel, in this same channel, if you are in YouTube, we will have the closure of the session. So this tool that has been seen in different presentations in the seminar and in the previous seminars of Uniservitate to know what actions were conducted as a panelist, in the pandemic, because we were confined, we were in a very challenging environment, and we had to take lots of precautions. But that context also implied a context of health emergency, social emergency for many countries in our region. Economic crisis also. So that was a very important call to action. And many schools, universities, and organizations also received this call to use their knowledge, their facilities, their territorial constructions in order to have projects that could serve those new needs that were being generated or already existing needs that were now becoming even more serious. So this map shows all the work that has been done. It's a collaborative map where everybody is invited to share experiences that you know or that you are involved in different parts of the world. There are some types of projects conducted by Maria Rosa Tapia and Pere Gali. This was published in the Ibero-American Journal of Service Learning. This is a list of the types of projects in the map. And we can see some emerging topics in the different service learning projects. So we have caring for people, both hospitalized or healthcare personnel, senior adults, people with disabilities, also projects of digital literacy and virtual educational support. This was another issue that was revealed with the pandemic, and that was the unequal availability of the voices. On the other hand, we had also experiences that were previously existing, that exchange of information, transfer of knowledge, projects for healthy eating, projects for providing assistance to families in vulnerable areas, both from the economic and food perspective, projects for local development in this context of lack of access to the formal or informal market during the pandemic, projects of environmental care to see how the pandemic had some animal zoonotic origin, projects of healthcare assistance for all these new people that needed healthcare, and in most of the countries the available resources were not enough. Production of healthcare inputs or supplies, all this new reality that we are building with masks, your face masks, sanitizers, etc. Projects related to rights, equity, and prevention of gender violence, the problems of staying at home and the domestic environments as safe or not, depending on the gender. And finally, programs that kept working on the promotion of service learning. Now I'm going to pass the floor to the 4 experiences that have been invited. They will each have some minutes to share their experience during the pandemic. One of them will speak in English. We are going to have the simultaneous translation into Spanish. So if you're in Zoom, you can choose the language you would like to hear. Otherwise, you will receive directly the audio directly from the speaker. The others also can choose to follow it in Portuguese. First, I would like to welcome Estela Raquel Pérez, Florencia Magalí Traslaviña, and Ana Paula Pizzolato from Technical School 4005, Josefa Capdevila from San Martín, Mendoza, Argentina. I will now stop sharing. Are you there? Estela, Ana Paula, Florencia? Yes. Hello, thank you for the invitation. Hello. So now I invite you, whenever you are ready, you can start sharing your screen and start your presentation. All right. Well, our project started last year during the pandemic. Our school is located in Argentina, in a province that is called Mendoza, in a district that is called San Martín. Our school is located in the downtown area of the city. It's an urban area. It has a large population of students and teachers. It has lots of students and teachers. The dean is Gabriela Grigor, Deputy Dean Gabriela Núñez, and the regent Claudia Amodeo. We have 230 teachers approximately, but our staff is quite dynamic because we have substitute teachers, etc. And we have 704 students. We are a technical school. It's a 6-year course, and we offer garments and textile products. This is one of the subjects, and food technology. This degree gives the students a possibility to go out to the job market once they finish their high school. Our project is called Virtual Tutors. Why? Because we had to move to the virtuality in order to keep educating ourselves, both teaching and learning. This project is led by the teacher of Education Sciences, Marcela Orlando, our IT teacher, Sergio Merlo, and myself. I'm going to be presenting today. And the tutors that participated actively, that are the protagonists of this project, are 52 students. And I'm going to start telling you the story of how this project started. In 2020, I'm sure this happened to all of us. On March the 12th, it was a Friday, we went to school as usual. And over the weekend, we were told that a quarantine was imposed. We could not go back to school for 15 days. So some teachers started contacting the students over WhatsApp so we wouldn't lose connection with the students so that it would complete the project they had started during those days of classes. After those 2 weeks, we were informed again, I mean, there's a new regulation from the government imposing an extension of the quarantine. So now that the times were going to be longer, the periods were going to be longer, we had a new challenge. Teachers had to start thinking how they would continue teaching students. How would we ensure that right that students have of keep learning? So there was a lot of uncertainty and a lot of fear as to what was going to be the future, because this is something that we were facing that was absolutely different from whatever we had lived before. So this is how the teachers felt initially. Now the students are going to tell us how they felt at that time. Hello, good afternoon. It was quite difficult at that time because we had to adapt to a new way of learning. We were familiar to it, but we're not so used to using some new tools. So it was very hard at the beginning as a student, and also for the teachers, of course. The WhatsApp groups were very useful initially to maintain the communication and the social connection we had within the community, but we also needed a space to organize the contents and what we were supposed to teach our students. So from the General Directorate of Schools in the province of Mendoza, they provided us with a tool that is a virtual platform. In this platform, each teacher had their course, and through tags, they could organize the contents for the students. So this was a new way of teaching remotely. And of course, they needed additional elements like videos and their own indications in order to reach all the educational community. But for that, first we needed to make a diagnosis to see the reality in our school. So in this diagnosis that was made through interviews over WhatsApp, we found that 80% of the teachers and also 80% of the students had not received or developed any formal virtual education. What does that mean? That although those that had a mobile phone knew how to use it, they didn't know how to be educated, how to receive learning through the mobile. I mean, how to upload a file, when they could log in to see the content, where they could find videos and information, and they didn't have the basic knowledge to use the virtual environment. For instance, how to upload files and videos, the size of the files, the meaning of JPG, Word, PDF, etc. So the new challenge, and this is the objective for the project, was to learn and teach digital literacy skills and the basic knowledge on the use of the virtual platform. Flor, would you like to explain who were the recipients of this project? Hello. Sure. Well, the recipients were us, mainly the students. we had to train ourselves in order to help one another in order to keep learning. The families also, so that they could support the students, also the tutors of each classroom to support the students and their families. The teachers also had to be trained in the use of the platform and other things in order to keep teaching. Also the authorities at the school. And then we worked in combination with an elementary school, Martín Fierro, and we taught the use of the platform to seventh
Bueno, en
grade
este caso
students.
fue porque
Yeah, in that
mi
case,
caso en
um,
Argentina
it's
estuvimos
because in
virtuales desde
Argentina,
el 12 de marzo,
we
estuvimos
were with
virtual
remote lessons
hasta fines de
between
noviembre y
March
solamente
12th
volvimos
till the end of
el último
November.
año en
Only
segunda
the
porque
students from
igual
the last year of high
todos
school
sabemos que hay
returned
esa
to
virtualidad
school at
y por
that
eso
time.
como
So the
tratamos
virtual
de darles un techo
educations were
hasta
very
el
extensive in time. So we had
principio y
to
los que íbamos a tener este
um,
año en primero de
train
supervisión
seventh
nuestra.
grade students that were about to start high
Bueno, ¿qué nos
school.
proponíamos con esto? Era conformar
So
una
what were
red
the
de peer
goals? Well,
tutores,
to create a team
porque
of tutor
lo que queríamos
students
era que fuera
because we
un
wanted this to
aprendizaje
be
porque había
a
muchas cosas
peer
por aprender
learning because there were many
pero
things to learn.
toda la
And
población
I think
educativa tenía que
that
aprenderlo. Entonces, conformamos este equipo
all
de
the
peer
students and teachers at the school
tutores
had to learn. So we created
capacitados
this
para que transfieran la
um,
información a sus
tutor
respectivos
students that were
profesores,
trained to then transfer
fortalecer
this
el
training to
desarrollo de
their
habilidades en
peers.
los estudiantes que
Also
querían
strengthen
aprender
the
a
development of
aprender,
skills in
a que
students related to
desarrollen
learning to
habilidades de
learn,
trabajo con
problem
otros,
solving,
comunicación,
working with
motivación y
others,
compromiso y responsabilidad,
communication,
así como
promoting
era el pensamiento
engagement and
crítico.
responsibility, and critical
Porque como les
thinking.
decía que teníamos una
Because
gran
as I
población en
said
esta
that
escuela,
we have a lot of students in
tanto
our school,
económica como
there's
social y
financial and
político,
social
era un país.
diversity among the
Entonces,
students.
para poder llegar a cada uno
So in
de
order
ellos se
to reach each and
tuvieron que
every
solucionar
student,
varios
the
problemas
students had
y de una
to solve
forma
many problems
efectiva
before
y
and find the
persuasiva para
most
poder llegar a
effective and
cada una de las
easiest
familias,
way
ya
to
que
reach each
decíamos a las
family.
familias porque con esta
And we
pandemia
say families
lo
because with
positivo
this
fue que
pandemic,
las
the
familias se
good thing
involucraron
about it
más
was that the families were
entonces
more
hicimos
involved
charlas
in
grupales,
the education of their
y
children,
también
particularly
abrimos
in high
espacios
school. And
institucionales
the other
como
is to
para
open
comunicación
institutional
también
times and
entre pares,
spaces
porque
for a
aquellos que
form of
propician aprendizaje de
communication
nuevas
between
tecnologías
peers,
y también
students
servicios
that
vinculados
promotes the learning of new
a ser
technologies
y
and
hacer,
forms of service
porque
related
también
to
queríamos,
learning to be
todos
and
nos
to
vimos
do. Because
desbordados con esta
we were all
pandemia,
overwhelmed with
principalmente los
this
adolescentes,
pandemic,
porque para los
mainly
chicos el
teenagers.
vínculo, el no perderlo, el
Um,
poder sentir
the importance
que
of
de
not
verdad pueden
losing
contar
that
con
connection
la
with their
familia.
peers and feeling that somebody was with them, at least virtually. So we had to generate ideas as to how we could reach our peers in a clear and effective manner so that everybody could keep learning. So we used the knowledge we had already acquired in these subjects. Those are language and literature from all years, social communication from second year, technological education from second year, and communication from fifth year, and the IT workshop. As you can see, these are from different years because it's a technical school and it includes students from first to sixth
Bueno,
year.
¿cómo lo hicimos para
So
organizar?
how did we do
Nosotros
it? How did
seleccionamos a dos
we
estudiantes
organize? Well, first
coordinadores
we
de
selected
educación y
2
los
students per
capacitamos. El
course and
servicio
we
era
trained
para
them in the use of
formalizar.
the virtual platform.
La tarea de los estudiantes
And
tutores
the
fue
task
buscar
of
las
these
mejores
tutor
formas
students
de
was to find the
comunicación
best ways of communicating
y apoyar y acompañar
and
a
of
sus iguales en esta
supporting
nueva forma de
their
aprendizaje
peers
y
in this
relación de
new
forma
form of
solidaria.
learning and
Porque nadie
communication
mejor
in
que es
this
básico para
generous way,
comprender
because
cuáles
there's
eran las
nobody better than
dificultades
a
que
peer to
presentaba el
understand the
virtual.
difficulties that the children might
Los
face.
tutores lograron que el
These virtual
80% de los
tutors
estudiantes
managed
tuvieran
that
acceso a la
80% of the
información
students had
y los
access to the
conocimientos
information and the
necesarios para
knowledge
poder
that was
seguir
necessary
aprendiendo
to
en la
keep
vida
learning
laboral.
from this
Y
virtual
también se
context.
logró que el
And
90% de los docentes
90% of the teachers
organizaron y planificaron
organized, planned,
sus
and offered
clases
their
dentro de la
classes
plataforma
within
virtual.
the virtual platform.
Los alumnos a los que no se pudo llegar eran
The
aquellos
students
alumnos
that could not be
por
reached were
razones
those that
principalmente
mainly because of
geográficas no tenían
geographic reasons,
internet o no
they didn't
tenían
have
posibilidad
internet connectivity or they didn't have a device, and we were not able to go out and go to their places to give them the physical materials. There were other ways later on from the school to contact these students, but not through this project. The methods that we used for everybody to be able to continue learning were the tutorials, the videos, then video calls, phone calls, some instructional audios and podcasts, slides, paper tutorials, and WhatsApp groups. And what we mostly used were the instructional videos so that everybody managed to understand the use of the platform. And this year, the courses were split in different groups or bubbles, as we call them. They alternated between remote and classes at school. They were all the first and second year students were trained in the use of the platform. Tutors were selected in the first years, and we keep learning all together, generating new content, new digital content. When we see there's a failure in the use of some other information tools, and part of the virtual platform. And this service learning project for virtual environments was where we learned the most to organize ourselves and to study in the virtual world, to collaborate among us, contributing what we each know. We learned to strengthen our self-esteem and responsibility to the other. We learned that communication can be done in many ways and through multiple channels, and that adults learned with us and we learned with them. There is our social media contacts. So that was the process, the history of our project. Now we wanted to share with you our experience having participated in this project and how we grew out of this from different approaches. As a teacher, my expectations were absolutely met and beyond in this project. Our tutor students are, our teachers go to the tutor students themselves to ask for help. That shows that they are very well trained and they have gained also the confidence of the adults. And we can trust them in this new way of learning among peers. But peers, not only speaking of ages, but also peers as to the level of knowledge we had about this new form of learning. And now the girls are going to describe how they felt because they are truly the protagonists of every project. As I always say, the students are the most important part of this. It was very nice. It was quite complex also at the beginning. This helped us create links. I was in first year at the time. I didn't know almost anybody. So it was like the platform and this project helped us help one another so that we can keep learning and understanding. Well, in our case, yeah, the same. I was difficult. I'm in sixth year, and it was quite difficult because we don't do the same thing every year at the workshop. So it was like, well, we had to adapt to a new form of doing things at home. We needed the devices. Some students do not have any computer. So, and sometimes we need certain machineries for doing some molding, some things, and we didn't have that equipment at home. So it was quite difficult at the beginning to do all the work from our home. But it was finally easy because we always had the teachers available, making sure that we had everything we needed, and they created videos to help us through. And it was quite easy on the one hand and difficult also on the other hand. But the teachers were always behind us, sending messages, making sure um, they were helping us. So all the students and directors and the tutors were always there for us, sending messages. So we cannot complain about the great school we have. So I hope that our experience helps you. This experience that we had during the pandemic, we always say that when we face difficulties, we have to find the positive side of things. And mainly in these service learning projects, where sometimes we plan things in a way and we have objectives, but we always but eventually then we find that the benefits outweigh all the difficulties. So thank you so much, Claes, for having invited us. And I'd like to invite Iris Point, that is from here, from Mendoza, and she's from Claes, and she's always planting the seed for this kind of projects. Thank you so much.
Congratu- Congratulations. I imagine everybody would be clapping if we were in a face-to-face meeting. Thank you. I think this was very clearly explained. I also thank Ana Paula and Florencia for being with us. And you clearly explained how in these critical moments you took the time to see how you felt and what you learned from that. I think that as time goes by, we will understand even better all the achievements we were able to make. Now, you have a slide with the social media accounts for the school. If you want to see the projects, well, you can follow them on social media. Okay, now we are going to give the floor to the second speaker, the experience of helpful teens from Kosovo. This will be presented by Jelsa. This was prepared between Jelsa Stulka and Marigona Yusufi. And I'm going to invite them to take the floor, to introduce themselves, and of course, to share your screen if you want.
Perfecto. Les recuerdo, perdón, antes de que empiece Dielsa, que quienes quieran escuchar en
Before you start, let me remind everyone that if they require translation into Spanish, attendees can choose here in Zoom the Spanish channel in the interpretation icon. It is the shape of a globe. Now, if you're ready, Gilsa, I can give you the floor.
Okay. Hello first. I'm Yelza Sulsa and I'm from Kosovo. I've studied psychology, and for now I'm still unemployed, and because I've just finished my university degree, bachelor degree. Our our club service is a helpful teens. Is a club formed by Toka, and this club exists. I'm sorry, exists since 2019. So we're having a second anniversary this year, and we have 16 members. And what we did during this period, we implying 3 projects. What I would like to do a short review about our club. So what our club has 16 members, and all of them are actually very young. So they are from 11 years old to 14. So what we wanted to do with them is learn them that we have to teach them that you have to know what you can do about the community, and you can do something for your community even if you're very young. The first project that we did, and this the main thing that we are going to talk about today, is the brochure about the city of Austria. So our club is based in the city of Austria. Is a very old city in the Kosovo. This project was published in 7th of August 2020, and it was an online project. Volunteers collected information by researching through the internet by themselves. What we did initially, this project was planned to be a physical project, because when we started in October 2019. This pandemic situation was not still present, so we started with the thought that this is gonna be a physical project. I would like to present to you the other two projects that we did before. I'm gonna talk a lot more for this project. So the other two projects was the project that we did is the young people being together for a different end year. Is a project where our volunteers donated and prepared cards and gifts for the people with disabilities at the handicaps. So handicaps is a daily essential with those kind of people. So them, especially young kids can go and take services that they offer. And the other project is because I studied psychology, we did it, and that month in May 2021 was the month of mental health awareness. We did a video about mental health awareness and its stigma with the title Kuptomos Juko, that in English means understand, do not judge. Do not judge. I've put this two pictures. This is for the second project when we donated the gifts and the cards, and the other one is from the final project that we did. So I'm turning back to the project that I'm gonna share with you today. This project, how I told you, was the project that we initially we wanted to do in the physical. So we started with a thought that is gonna be released in June 2020. But after all this pandemic happened, we started to we decided to push the date of publishing, and we decided to do that online, because knowing how today is very usable, and the usability of the internet is very big, so we decided to do this online. To be honest, Vustria is a very old city and very big, very interesting city. But in Kosovo, there's no many places when you can go and ask about this cities, because they don't know at all about the history of the city. So we wanted to do this because this brochure then was created with the aim to help people that are not Vustria's resident know more about antique monuments and influencing people that this city has. As I told you, this was originally planned to be published in June, and then to be a physical copy. How we did this project was actually we divided responsibilities for each volunteer. We always had our meetings physical, but when the pandemic COVID happened, then we started doing online meetings. And for the kids, for the volunteers, it was a very hard thing to do, because they always wanted to do the physical meetings, because they always gonna play together, gonna meet together, gonna share experiences with each other. And it was very, very hard for them to, especially to learn and to be used to this the online meetings. For it was hard actually for us too, because I was in the last semester of my studies, and I had to do my online, my Zoom classes online, and it was very hard. But for my volunteers, I had to be that one that who would be, hey, it's okay that we're gonna be used to this. It's basically now is going to be a new normal, is because how the quarantine is going, but we're turning back again. So it's just basically a new normal. When we did the meetings, we divided the responsibilities per each volunteer to help finalize the brochure. We actually asked them in which part you think you can be the most helpful. So first, some of them wanted to do gathering the information. Some of them wanted to do the editing part, or some of them did the lecturing part. So it was basically what they wanted to do and how they wanted to do. We asked them, and then they started doing their part very, very good, and it was very, very good how we did. Uh, how we collected information for these antique monuments was by doing online researches. In fact, it was only mostly doing online researches, because at the time that we did the brochure was when the quarantine started to go away, because there was an improvement in the pandemic situation at that time. And Super volunteered even visited this cultural sites by obtaining information directly from the people in charge of these facilities. So they wanted, just because they thought that this is more like they were feeling more useful if they are doing something in physical. So they wanted to go and visit those this cultural site, and gathering the information by themselves. The project's length was 30 hours volunteering. This includes the online meetings and online and field researches, and finally the brochure preparation. What I would, at least what I would wanted to show you is the brochure, how it looks like. For that, I put the link down below, but I'm going to share about with my computer. So this is the brochure, how it looks like. So what we did in the brochure was at first we talked about the geographical position and the population about Vuštria. You can see that the map is the map of the Kosovo, and that part, the red zone, is where Vuštria expands. So it's very extended. It's a very small but a very old city. Then we continued with all the cultural antique monuments in Vuštria. First was Hammam of Vuštria. This hammam is a public bath, and this was very old, because it's built in the end of the 14th century and at the beginning of the 15th century. Then we continued with a castle in Vuštria. This castle actually is in the center of the city. And is very old. It was used, and it was built, and it destroyed so many times to survive till these days. It was built around 7th century, so it's very, very old. And actually it was used for so many reasons. It was used as a coffee shop. It was used as for the wars, and is because it's so old, and it was destroyed and built so many times, and it's very, very good and very good scene to see. The last monument that we did include, that I found the most fascinating, is a stone bridge. This bridge actually is in the middle of the city, and is a bridge where the river that passed under this bridge actually changed its course, and now is one of the rarest bridges in the world, because there's no any other bridge like this, when there's no any river flowing under this bridge. So it's basically a bridge without a river. And the last part, but not at least, we included famous characters from Vushtrian that are very influential. First, it was Hasan Pristina. He was a patriot, and he did very, very much about the educational issues. And even today, the National University bears his name, because he was one of the most people that did the most about educational issue for Kosovo. The other one is actually a football player. He was born in Vostre, and he plays in an England football team in Norwich, and in the national team. This was all I got to say. If you have any question, you can ask free, and thank you for your attention.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias, Elsa.
So much, Gilsa, for your presentation. That was very interesting. And perhaps it doesn't have to do directly with the pandemic, but I thought it was very interesting how you could also generate a space to have a look at the local space again. Sometimes the distances in the world have reconverted, and now the local place has come to the forefront, our place, our community, our district, our municipality. So it's a very important historical recovery. Thank you. So now, as Gilsa said, you can send questions. If you're in Zoom, please write the questions once we open the Q&A. If you are following in YouTube, you can write the questions there. Now we are going to pass the floor to Charo Valle from the Spanish Service Learning Network. She has been with us in several conferences, and most interestingly, although we've listened to her many times, we always think, what is she going to bring this time? What questions is she going to open up about service learning in Spain? So we are very intrigued at what you're going to share. So whenever you are ready, you can start, Charo.
Pues muy bien, muchas gracias, María Luna. Estoy encantada de estar aquí y parece mentira.
Today, I can't believe it's been 2 years already with these virtual meetings, but we miss the hugs and the closeness. What happened in Spain? What happened during the pandemic in Spain? Actually, was it possible to do remote service learning? What would we have answered if 4 years ago or 3 years ago we would have asked this question? I don't know about you, but I would have answered, well, it is possible, perhaps, but of course it's not recommended. I wouldn't have imagined, I would never have imagined this. And truly, throughout this time, many projects have been conducted in Spain, very interesting projects, the ones you have explained. And I would like to mention one of them as an example. As you know, the absence of biodiversity has been one of the keys for understanding the extension and the seriousness of the pandemic. This absence of biodiversity was the reason for a service learning project with children in primary school in a town called Lorca in the south of Spain. So I would like to start by sharing with you all these pictures.
Somos las niñas y los niños de la Fundación.
We are the children from the Sepain Foundation from Lorca. This is the project Planting the Future. This has been a weird year. The virus has left us out of school and without seeing our friends. The situation worried us a lot because this virus has come. Could it have been avoided? So thinking and thinking with the help of our teachers at Sepaim, we reached a conclusion. The planet is sad and weak, and that's why it cannot stop this little bug. We have to do something to help it. Do you know that curing the planet is very difficult, but perhaps if we get together, we can change things. So the first thing was to do some research. What can we do to improve the health of the planet? Reading books, looking for information, we found one of the key elements to contain this virus, biodiversity. It's very sad to think that animal and plant species that have always lived on a space disappear or that they stop existing. We are running out of ecosystems. It's as if on the earth, every people were of the same race. How boring that would be. So we reached the second part of the project. We decided to do something to improve the biodiversity of our environment, the city of Lorca. Our teachers gave us books and stories. They introduced us to Masanobu Fukuoka, a Japanese biologist who worries about the environment and who invented a wonderful way of planting through seed bombs. It's a fantastic method because you only need to mix the seeds with clay and soil, make little balls, and then throw them on the field. Of course, the seeds had to be from native plants. That means that they belong here, and this is where they grow the best. And we had decided the first part of the project, but the plants do not grow so easily. They need somebody to help them. And nature itself gave us the response. Who will be spreading the seeds naturally? Birds. So we thought of the second idea. We needed birds that carried those little seeds to other places. So all the field would be green. So we decided we would put little houses for birds to be in and raise their babies in a safe place, because birds do not have any places to create their nests. We would have loved it to do it all together, but we couldn't. So we had to do it with our families at home. Sepaim brought us clay, soil, and seeds to create our own bombs. And once they were ready, we went out and launched them all over the place. They also gave us the little houses that we assembled, painted, and then we put them all over the place. And that's how the kids at Fundación Paim in Lorca have tried to contribute to improving the planet. Now we just have to wait for a while and see if our plants grow and the little houses are full of tenants. And in the meantime, we won't stop thinking about other ways so that little by little our planet goes back to being what it was. All together, we will change the world. Good. This is one of the projects that were developed during the pandemic. There are other types of projects as well. I'm not going to dwell on this because Maria Luna before already gave us a very good classification. But so all in all, there have been projects that have just adapted to the pandemic. They started before the pandemic. There were many projects that were focused on informational campaigns, school support for children and even for teachers, and also at universities mainly, they provided support to the families that were in lockdown. Also, they supported the population at risk, making communications for vulnerable people, sick people, even healthcare personnel. Also, examples of the revitalization of the local economy and creation of devices that were related or not with the pandemic. So that was not very different to what you in Argentina have already detected. So in any case, what we did at the Spanish Service Learning Network was to make a compilation, a collection of resources. Initially, it was a series of analysis, social, political, historical, healthcare analysis on COVID. And in a kind of catalog, we also collected 70 experiences of service learning that were developed during the pandemic. So what learnings have been reinforced with these projects? We've detected basically 4 large blocks of learning. First, there has been such a strong incidence on communication, so learnings in reading, writing, speaking, arts. All these areas have been strongly reinforced with these projects during the pandemic. Second, everything that has to do with preparing videos and use of technologies, for instance, 3D designs, all this has also had a specific relevance as learnings during the pandemic. The third block, everything that has to do with reflections and expansion and going deeper into vulnerability. What is the frailty of society in this period that we had never experienced before? Children, teenagers, the youth have had the chance to reflect about these aspects that were not visualized before. And then a very interesting element, very important. Children have perceived that they have become active citizens and they are part of a social mobilization. There were many people doing things. We were not the only ones. We were not the lonely rangers. All over the place, there were service initiatives of neighbors in their surroundings, and the children and the teenagers joined those movements and they did important things. So what have we learned with all these process of generation of projects during the pandemic? Let's share some lessons. First, the distance projects, remote projects demand that that distance is shortened. It seems obvious, but if there's a distance, let's make it shorter. And how? Well, there are many strategies for that. We don't have time for the details, but for instance, one of them would be that the beneficiaries themselves in the population that receives the benefits of the work of the students go directly to these students to say, we can already do this. We master videos. Even 80-year-olds can use their WhatsApp to talk to their grandchildren. So let's exploit this. We have to bridge that gap, shorten that distance so the contacts are, as far as possible, as close as possible. Second, since what distance does is to make the objective of service more abstract and more remote, we have to do it as tangible and concrete as possible. Not super ambitious projects that are going to take all of our energy and has no guarantee of success, and we're going to lose our morale. Let's do simple things, effective, concrete, practical things that we can see their result. Third, we always have to reinforce the protagonism of the children, but especially in these projects, because they can see them as more remote and unaffordable for them. On the contrary, we have to reinforce their leading role. And finally, the pandemic demands that we are more optimistic for all our projects, all the meetings, all the Zoom sessions with the students. Let's try to avoid being discouraged. We cannot run that risk. The situation has been very hard. It can also be hard in the next years. We have to keep up our spirits as much as possible. So conclusions that we would like to contribute. Initially, well, first of all, this process of service learning projects during the pandemic has revealed that the direct relationship has not been a necessary condition. We wouldn't have imagined this before the pandemic, but we are confirming this. It has not been a necessary condition. There have been excellent projects without a direct physical connection with the beneficiaries. Second, the pandemic has turned us into explorers, people with a lot of creativity and imagination to explore the possibilities and civic engagement at a distance. We have discovered many things we didn't know we were able to do. Third, distance has imposed a challenge of us. It has even been interesting to face this challenge. It hasn't been a barrier that we couldn't overcome. Fourth, the response of schools and social entities has been fantastic. We have seen all the things we were able to do with our neighbors, with the social movements, with the communities. It has been amazing. So we have to be confident in our own possibilities. And the fifth conclusion that I would like to share that has to do with something that Maria Nieves reminded us yesterday in her presentation is that with solidarity, it's not enough. With social activism, we don't have enough. We have to always encourage the acquisition of knowledge. We have to strengthen the social capital, the cultural capital of our children. And that way we will empower them. That way we will make them stronger, particularly children in the more vulnerable environments. The cultural stimulation, the learnings, the knowledge are very relevant in service learning. I would like to finish with a quote that paraphrases actually philosopher Adela Cortina, and that's that let's remember, as the pandemic has reminded us, that the purpose of education consists in forming competent citizens that are capable of transforming the world. Because otherwise, what is education for? Thank you so much.
Bueno, Charo, muchas gracias a vos por compartirnos esta
Charo,
experiencia.
thank you for sharing your experience, and thank you for sharing the experience of the Spanish network. It's always a pleasure to share the comments from other groups, and particularly those of us that are promoting service learning. So I thank you so much for sharing your thoughts.
I'm going to start introducing the next speaker. This would be a presentation by the technical school, Pedro Blanes Viale from Soriano, Uruguay. I'm going to introduce speakers. Can you hear me?
Buenas tardes. Bueno, les paso la palabra.
Good afternoon. I will give you the floor. You can start with the presentation.
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon. It is my pleasure to be once again participated in this conference. This is a school that has a long track record of working jointly with CLAIS in service learning. We have already participated in previous editions of the conference in Argentina, and now we are here again virtually. Our project has a lot to do with this new setting. This is a technical school in Uruguay. It is a state-run school located in the city of Mercedes in the department of Soriano in Uruguay. You can see the map there. This school covers 1,300 students, approximately 200 teachers, and offers education courses in basic, middle, and tertiary education. It specializes in technical education. As we all know, we have faced an entire year of a pandemic, and now we are already in the second year. So this has forced us to reinvent ourselves and to find ways to come up with new ways of learning. So we revisited a lot of things and we came up with new tools to continue teaching during these hard times. And we had to do some internal work, of course. Ultimately, our project seeks to make sure that through knowledge and virtual participation, we could have an exchange of knowledge and communication among different people. In particular, we wanted to give new value and new importance to traditional knowledge, the family recipes that our senior citizens know very well and that are usually shared in the family. So how we could bring that kind of tradition to our own school. In our school, we have also a digital space that tries to bring those senior citizens up to date with the new tools, the new virtual media, so that they are not isolated. And we wanted to connect senior citizens with our students through our school. That was the focus of our project. And healthy food or healthy eating habits was at the core of our project because we wanted to have an impact in terms of life quality. Actually, we wanted to link senior citizens with students, and that is why we came up with a project. It was a competition of healthy family recipes. Our students received through WhatsApp recipes. As Charo said, here we have 80-year-old individuals who dare use WhatsApp to send their recipes. So our students were able to make some adjustments to recipes that were not that healthy. They also connected with some experts that provided them with more technical knowledge about healthy food. So more than 120 recipes were received. There was a selection of 10, and they were prepared by the students. These were our partners. In Uruguay, there is a program, Ibirapita, that is a program that promotes the inclusion of senior citizens. There was also a committee that fights against cancer with the healthcare professionals that provided guidance to our students, a digital platform, Cookpad. Why? We also have support from the Social Development Ministry in Uruguay, the Modelo Market, that is a national distribution center of fruit and vegetable, and we also have support from the local TV channel and news network. The recipients, the beneficiaries of our project were senior citizens from all over the country, as well as elderly people living in elderly homes. They communicated with the students through WhatsApp, through Zoom, and here you have some photos that show those exchanges. They were the beneficiaries of the service action. The participants at school, as Gerardo said, we have a number of courses. So we had students from the professional or the vocational training degree in cooking, apparel making, graphic design, and digital inclusion. That is a non-formal space. The learning objectives were the following. We wanted to connect the syllabus, the curricular content with this exchange of recipes over Zoom. We wanted also elderly people to be able to take ownership of digital tools. We always uphold that no matter how old you are, you always have room for learning. And with this project, we were able also to have very successful results. And then we have the evaluation phase for this project. And our students, especially in the cooking course, usually participate in events at the regional level. So they weren't able to participate in those events, in those social gatherings because of the restrictions during the pandemic. So we have to find a new way of evaluating their skills. In terms of service objectives, we wanted to give visibility to the family traditional recipes that had been passed on from one generation to the other. We also wanted to put elderly people at the center to allow them to take a leading role. We also seek to achieve a good intergenerational exchange. They contacted people they didn't know. The students were connected through Zoom, but the elderly people could also tell their stories, their links, their ties, and they could also discuss about cooking and recipes with the students in the cooking course. The practices were those of healthy food making. We wanted this to be one of the premises, as well as the use of digital tools, both by students and the elderly people. We had different stages throughout the project. We had a lot of planning meetings, also meetings with healthcare professionals, with students and the elderly people in attendance, along with the teachers. And this is a picture of a meeting that exceeded 100 people all over the country. If you consider that Uruguay is a small country, this means that we had people from 18 or 19 departments. So we had a huge turnout for that meeting. Then we need to highlight that we had a lot of support from the teaching staff through real-time connections. The teachers connected through virtual platforms. So there were also meetings with healthcare professionals, as you can see from these pictures. And there was also space for training of students in the use of different aspects of healthy food cooking and the use of digital platforms. We found that this was also an interinstitutional and an intergenerational project because we had participation from groups from different areas, different courses, different programs in different fields. For instance, in the tertiary level in the school, there is a course on graphic design, and students in that course were responsible for creating the logo that decorated all this project. In order to do that, they have to talk with the client, they have to share ideas, discuss them, use IT tools in order to get to the final logo. For the apparel making course, that is a basic course, we call it a level 1 course, the students had to design and make the aprons that the students were going to wear when cooking the recipes that had been selected by the students and that had been sent by the elderly citizens. And the course that had most of the work was that of cooking, because they had to go through different stages of training, recipe selection. They had to modify and adjust some of the recipes in order to make them healthier. And finally, the preparation of those recipes, the cooking itself, that was like the cherry on the cake, because as you can see from these pictures, they were able to bring those recipes into something concrete in reality. Finally, as we said, we also have a digital inclusion space. And it is usually used by elderly people who require technology. Because of the pandemic, they were not able to come, but the students and these people help us post all the recipes, to design all the slides. So at the end of the process, the younger students, 13, 14, 15-year-olds, and our students that are in their 50s, that are learning this digital inclusion space, were involved in this final phase of the project. Now, we wanted to share with you a video that was produced by the UTU General Office that from the Department of Communications that may give you a clearer idea of what we do in the school. This project is about preparing healthy food. This is carried out by students in the Department of Mercedes in Uruguay. Because of the pandemic, we were not able. Elizabeth and Gerardo, we cannot see the video. Or apologies. We were so happy watching the video. Perhaps it is streaming in YouTube, but no, it isn't. We cannot see it. So let's see if we can share it. If not, just let us know where we can watch it. We can share the link in the YouTube chat.
Así. Ahora sí.
Okay, now we can see it. This is a project called Healthy Homemade Healthy Food. This is a project in the Pedro Blanes School in Mercedes, working with different partners. And given the health emergency, we were not able to work with senior citizens in person. So we thought that we could work on health-related project. And we came up with this project. We have participation from students in different courses in the school, in the cooking, apparel making, and graphic design courses. So in our course, we came up with a proposed logo to make sure that everybody would agree to use it, and then we produce all the graphic material. In our course, we worked with the third-year students, and they were the ones that made the aprons. They designed the apron, and they took all the measurements, and they also added a pocket to the apron. Then we had a first stage in the project through Zoom. We had a healthy food workshop run by some healthcare professionals, and we received 128 recipes from 17 departments in the country. After receiving all these recipes, the cooking course students prepared those food, those meals, and they made some changes, some adjustments in order to make those family recipes that were so emotionally attached into a more healthy food. And then this move on to the digital space. Because they were the ones responsible for posting all these selected recipes on the CookPad platform. And they are going to be there for everyone to be able to see them. The recipes were main courses, and that would be principal or main food with a garnish. We try to reduce the amount of oil used. So we try to use water instead of oil to fry the different foodstuffs. And in this case, we have these vegetable balls with the rice. Some participants didn't know that they had one. So when they were told that that was the case, they were crying, because in some cases, these were recipes brought from Italy by their grandparents or their ancestors. So this was a very nice experience with full commitment from the staff, the teaching staff, the students, and the community. And this can be shown in the good results of this project.
Bueno, esa es nuestra presentación del
Well,
proyecto.
that is our presentation of the project. We believe that we are practicing horizontal solidarity in this project. All of us learn. And we believe that this is a service action. And here we can clearly see the features of service-based education. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth and Gerardo. Thank you for this experience. And with this, we are closing the panel. This is a very tempting, very attractive experience. We were discussing here that it was a pity that was not done face to face, so we could taste those different healthy recipes. Well, I could taste. I had the privilege of tasting those recipes, so you were very lucky. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to start opening the Zoom chat to send the questions. You can also write questions in YouTube. I'm going to introduce in more detail the speakers, and then I'm going to read the questions. And also, if you have questions that you would like to ask, I mean, the speakers themselves, you have questions for one another, you can do that. So the first experience from Josefa Capdevila was presented by Estela Perez. She's an engineer in IT from the National Technological University with wide experience. And she's been an auxiliary of the IT lab. And she offered trainings for teachers and students in the ICT area. Florencia Traslaviña is a 14-year-old student in second year of the technical school, Josefa Capdevila, a virtual tutor and a delegate of her course. And the final speaker of that presentation was Ana Paula Pisolato, 18-year-old in sixth year of the garment and textile product course, a virtual tutor, student delegate, and in 2020 she was recognized by the Construyamos Foundation for her project on e-commerce and finance. The second experience was, apologies, just a second. Let's see if I can read about Dielsa, the helpful teens experience from Kosovo. Dielsa Stuka has a degree in psychology from the Christina University. She has been part of volunteer programs since high school, where she was part of several NGOs. She was part of the Youth Assembly in Lipian as a volunteer, and then she became part of the leadership group in a youth forum for local action. Since 2019, she's been a mentor at a service learning club called Helpful Teens, a club made up of Toca, based in Bustria. Third, we heard the experience from Charo Rosalbaje. She's a pedagogy specialized in service learning. She works in the dissemination of service learning in Spain. She has been an educator in free time, teacher of special education, monitor trainer. She has worked at school, in public administration, university, where she has been a volunteer and a professional for over 30 years. She has written, among others, the blog www.rosalvalle.net on service learning, social engagement in action since 2020, and service learning in Spain, propagation of a revolution in 2013. She's the founder of the Spanish network of service learning. She's part of the center that promotes service learning, the Cervicas Foundation, the Ibero-American Network of Service Learning, and the Ajoca Network of Social Entrepreneurs. She's also an advisor to several public administrations in the implementation of policies for the promotion of service learning, and apart from education, her other passion is mountaineering. And finally, the presentation from the technical school from Soriano, Uruguay, by Elizabeth Fernandez de Noda, an elementary teacher, graduate from the Teacher Training Institute in Uruguay, a teacher of IT in the basic cycle at the Division of Professional Technical Education in Uruguay since 1999, a teacher of IT for elementary school, coordinator of the Space for Digital Inclusion in High School, Pedro Blanes Viale, since 2013. The other speaker was Gerardo Fabián Borgio, technical teacher in mechanics, a graduate for technical teacher training in Uruguay. She has a great course in the management of education institutions from the Institute of Higher Studies and the University of the Republic of Uruguay. He has wide experience as a teacher in technical schools in Uruguay and also as a director of technical schools. He was also director of the regional campus of technological education until 2020 and a regional inspector since 2021. Now we're going to open the floor for questions. In the meantime, let me share with you that we have received greetings from Venezuela, Argentina, Uruguay, from different parts of Argentina, Formosa, Tucumán, Patagonia, Catamarca, City of Mexico, Jujuy, Entre Ríos, La Plata, Villa Regina and Rio Negro in Uruguay, Lima, Peru, and many comments, many congratulations for the experiences. I recommend that then you go to the YouTube chat where you can see a lot of feedback and requests for information so that you can see all the things that you have caused.
Mm, No sé, Catalina, Lucía, si contamos con
I don't
algún...
know, Catalina and Lucia, do we have any question?
Por el momento no, no sé si entre...
For the time being, there are no questions. I don't know if you would like to ask any question to any of the other panelists.
Vamos a dejar un minuto más.
Let's wait for one more minute. Otherwise, we will have a final round. Apart from questions among you, if after the presentation anybody would like to use a few more minutes to share some final reflection or to share another part of the experience that you could not share in the presentation, but you think it's relevant for the audience, of course, that's also welcome.
Okay, may I speak?
Claro, sí.
Of course, yes,
Okay,
go
okay.
ahead.
Okay, I would like to take the chance for you first to thank you for inviting me in this great conference. And I would like to compliment the other three speakers because as I can see, you are much more experienced than me, and I was able to learn so much from your presentation. And I would like to compliment you. Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
María Luna, yo también quisiera comentar alguna cosa.
Maria Luna, I would also like to say something connected to what our friend from Kosovo was saying. I think that this seminar, this conference is always so rich. I mean, after the seminar, you are not just like you were before the seminar. In Spain, this international conference on service learning that CLICE has organized throughout these years has been a continuous source of information permanently. And the truth is that we have copied you. We've copied things from you without any embarrassment. I can say that. We've copied many things from you. And one of the things we have copied precisely is this idea of organizing these meetings, like these macro meetings, in order to exchange as much as we can, to establish connections and to obtain ideas and to generate collective intelligence. Now that there are no questions, I would like to use these minutes for publicity and for advertising. And I say that with no embarrassment. On December 17th, the Spaniards, Spanish men and women, I'm sorry, Maria Luna, I don't use your neutral language, but I'm from the generation that find it very difficult to use that politically correct language. On December 17th, we are going to hold our national meeting, our 14th national meeting in Spain. So we invite you to join us and to continue with this big debate that CLICE has started, actually. Thank you, Charo. Thank you for the invitation. Does anybody else would like to say anything? This is the time. Otherwise, let me tell you that in a few minutes, we're going to close this panel. And at 4:15 Argentina time, in a few minutes, we are going to have the final session for this meeting. You know that virtual meetings perhaps can be more tiring, but this is the final moment of meeting today. We will have the also among the audience, those that attended the simultaneous meetings. We've had 5 simultaneous meetings today. Here we had around 100 participants, but there were other workshops at the same time. We will all get together in YouTube and in each of the channels according to the language to close the day. I'd like to thank you so much. Let's see, there's a question here. Apologies, the Zoom chat was not open before, so there may be a question there. Let's just wait for a minute to see if somebody sends a question. Anyway, I remind you that the seminar, the conference started yesterday with the opening remarks by Nieves Tapia, her keynote speech. Today, we had 2 plenary sessions and these simultaneous sessions in the afternoon. And tomorrow we will continue also with 2 plenary sessions in the morning, simultaneous sessions during the afternoon on different topics and about different proposals that are more or less participatory according to the topic. And then we are going to have a closing ceremony at the end at 4:30 p.m. Argentina time tomorrow. So you are all invited. All the sessions will be available on YouTube and the presentations will be uploaded in our webpage. We also invite you to contact one another, to follow one another in the social media, to continue growing this community of service learning, to feel supported, and as Charo mentioned, to copy one another in the best sense and to find agreements and similarities with experiences that may be very remote geographically or in time also. Given the difficulties that we have all gone through. And to remind you that service learning is making a contribution right now to a context that is very hard, that we are experiencing, that is longer than expected, and that we have to imagine new responses as those kids that wanted to protect the environment, those that wanted to rescue that intergenerational transition when that was a big crisis in many countries where the different generations were isolated according to their level of exposure. And the youth very often was in a passive, perhaps, role without finding their place of belonging. And through these activities, as Shadow said, we can regain optimism, productivity, and the real power of coordinating with other people and proposing lines of action, collaborative spaces, and also invite other people to join. So I thank you so much for all this, for having joined this space, those that share their experiences and those that send their warm words over the chat. And I invite you all to be part of this movement. We keep receiving messages congratulating the speakers and those that participated in the construction of these target groups. I thank you so much. And now we're going to close this panel. So we hope to see you all in a few minutes. And bye-bye to each and every one of you for being there. We will see you in a while to continue with the 24th International Seminar Conference on Service Learning. Thank you. Have a great time. Thank you.